The name player is synonymous with the game of golf and all the good things that come with it. Following Gary Player's legendary career, considered to be one of the greatest of all time, Gary will be disappointed with his son's actions at Augusta last year, which have now landed Player Jr. with a lifetime ban from the course. Today, we're going to be discussing the Masters legend's son's lifetime ban, but you probably won't believe the reason. First up, what exactly happened? Stay tuned to find out. Every year, the Masters likes to honor one of its legends in one way or another, and 2021 was no different. The tournament, possibly the most prestigious on the whole tour, decided not to honor Lee Elder, the first black man to play in the tournament, in 1975, as he was in failing health. Of course, luminaries from the world of golf turned out to honor the trailblazer, who was praised for kicking down the metaphorical doors in the sport, at a time when black men still weren't allowed in some clubhouses in the United States. And on the guests list, of course, was the Elder's longtime rival and friend, South African legend Gary Player, who brought along his own son Wayne as a caddy for his round. However, Wayne decided the event would be a great opportunity to market some golf balls, which we won't name here, so we don't give the brand any publicity, by holding them up in a shot. He was very roundly criticized for the stunt, and rightly so, for taking advantage of a man in failing health who had been through so much in his life, just to market some golf balls in a really super tacky way. Player was slapped with a lifetime ban for the stunt, which isn't long enough in most people's views. In a time when the past actions of white people were under scrutiny, here we have a man trying to steal the limelight from a black icon. He should feel ashamed. So what did Player have to say for himself? Let's see. Well, of course, he claimed it was just a publicity stunt and he meant nothing by it, but there's really no excuse for this behavior. Player himself shortly afterward claimed that there's no such thing as bad publicity, but then acknowledged that the old mantra isn't entirely true. He said, I probably had 50 texts after that, 40 of them saying I'm a marketing genius, and 10 were like, what the hell were you thinking? It wasn't premeditated, but it was a tacky thing. And most people would probably fall into the latter category, as Player has been largely ostracized from the golfing community. But the younger Player has since said that he's made amends with Mr. Elder shortly before he passed last year. He even went as far as to say that Elder wasn't bothered by his actions. But that might be a little hard to believe. Player, talking recently about his conversation with the pioneering golfer last year, said, I've got Lee's cell phone number. I called and said, Lee, I love you guys. Everyone said I was disrespectful for a special moment in time for Elder. I said I was sorry, and I didn't mean to take up his special time. And he said, Wayne, you know how much I love you, right? It didn't cross his mind. That's important for people to know. So, what do you make of Player's behavior? News about the younger Player's arrest a few years ago. Yeah, stay tuned. No stranger to controversy, it might not surprise you to know that, given his behavior last year, Wayne Player was actually arrested a few years ago for fraud. The situation arose after he had allegedly written a bad check when renting property in Georgia for the Masters. Apparently the check bounced thanks to a younger Player not having the funds for it, but he went on to try and scam the landlord out of the money he was owed. He told how he reached to the guy who owned the property, explaining that he was going through a bit of a rough patch, financially speaking, but he did offer to send him $1,000 to compensate for his check bouncing, which he never did. Of course, the gentleman in question contacted the authorities to recoup his money he was owed, and when Player was sent a letter from a lawyer, he said, I actually put the letter from the lawyer under a heap of papers and totally forgot about it, of which I'm 100% responsible for. He was detained after his flight back to South Africa when he passed through Atlanta, where he was wanted by local authorities. He did claim to have paid the owners the $2,000 they were owed, but it kind of shows you the character of this guy that he had to be arrested for somebody to give the money back they were owed. He said, I spent 5 days and 5 nights of hell, but we have very, very little sympathy for that, and I mean very little. Next up, Player Jr. has weighed in on a criticism of his father. Gary Player has been roundly criticized recently after appearing at the 2022 Masters with a t-shirt featuring a Gulf Saudi logo. The Breakaway League also bores the brunt of the criticism after it was revealed that they had tried to poach players from the PGA Tour. The tour has since said that any players playing under the Saudi banner could risk their futures on traditional tour. And also Wayne Player has given his opinion on the situation, and rather unsurprisingly, he had his dad's back completely, and he wouldn't be drawn into criticizing the Saudis. He said, we can judge, the Arab nation for traditions that they have. I mean, their women aren't allowed to walk around like we know women can walk around. They gotta have a cloak over their head. I mean, I don't know, it's not for me to criticize them, He went on to explain how they were tough on law, which is what Phil Mickelson was referring to. But he did go on to excuse his father's participation further by saying that Player Sr. was just excited about being part of the growing game of golf in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, right, nothing to do with the millions of dollars involved. He finished by even claiming his father loves golf course design, informing fans that he designed over 170 golf clubs. So, nobody should be criticizing his father. Okay, Wayne, what do you make of players' involvement? Gary has stopped by with some dietary advice, so stay tuned. Players these days are, of course, looking for any slight advantage they can get ahead of the other competition. The elder statesman, who was appearing at the Greats of Golf event this past weekend, was on the driving range when one fan accosted him and told him that when he works out, Player himself is actually in his thoughts, to which the legend replied, "Good for you." The man was obviously trying to bond with Player, who is known to take fitness and diet extremely seriously, but he didn't seem to be in the mood. The 86-year-old, who still regularly appears at the Seniors Tour, has in the past given all sorts of tips to aspiring players when it comes to diet and fitness. But nowadays, as he pushes towards his 90s, he says it's more important than ever to stay in shape, revealing that he still takes time on the treadmill and pushes 350 pounds with his legs. That's insane. But he had another tip, especially for the elder players, saying 2 meals a day. That's all you need. You don't need 3 meals a day. No. Breakfast and lunch. Lay off the dinner. He went on to claim that cars don't need petrol in the garage overnight, which, when it's put like that, it kind of makes sense. Give us your health and fitness tips below. And also, have you ever wondered how much the average golfer makes? We got you. It's well known that golfers aren't short of a few dollars, but how much does the average golfer make exactly? Well, of course, it depends on who you are, but ever since all the Saudi Arabia talk, golfers' earnings have been under the microscope even more. Rory McIlroy, ever the level-headed pro, has said in response to the Saudi League that anyone that says we're underpaid needs their head examined, which is, of course, spot on. Scotty Scheffler has banked $10 million so far this year, largely in part due to his Masters win. And John Rahm topped the last year's money listed making just under $8 million. But these guys are obviously the top of the food chain, so yeah. Last year, the average golfer on the tour made $1,485,055, which, of course, puts them in the top 0.1% of global earners. Being a successful golfer pays, as we know, but this figure is, of course, for the average player. Go down the line a touch to the player who finished 250th on the 2021 money list, Parker Lachlan, and he made around $6,000 for his efforts in 2021. And just because you're a legend of the game doesn't mean you're immune to a bad year. Jose Maria Olazabal, two-time Masters winner, just made $28,635 in 2021. But he did only take part in 2 tournaments, so that isn't so bad. As always, thanks for tuning in today, and remember to stop by next time for more fun and games. See you guys.